As the son of engineers, Todd Nickelski's career took shape from watching the work his parents did. After years of working as an engineer in the private sector, Todd has now been with the City of River Falls for nearly 5 years as a city engineer. And as a resident of the city, he gets to see firsthand the finished projects that he's been involved with since joining the city. On this episode of the Kinni Cast, Todd shares about the most memorable projects he's worked on, discusses a few big upcoming projects that residents should know about, and talks about how the engineering department plans for the growth of River Falls and work that the city does. Tune in now to hear why Todd describes himself as a jack of all trades and a master of none, right now on the Kinni Cast. Hi everybody, welcome back to a new episode of the Kinni Cast. My name is Tyler Mason. I'm the communications coordinator here at the city and the host of the podcast, and I'm excited to be joined today by our city engineer, Todd Nickelski. We're going to get into some discussion about different projects the city is working on and kind of his background, but we'll let Todd introduce himself. So Todd, how are you doing today?
I am doing great for a Friday afternoon.
There we go. That's the spirit we need on the podcast here. Appreciate you being here. So let's start with you. When did you first realize, I guess, that engineering was a career that you were interested in? Was that something that, as a young kid, you were kind of gravitated towards, or how did that play into your world?
Well, I guess growing up, my parents were both engineers.
Okay.
My mom actually was one of the pioneer women in engineering, and my dad is also a super technical guy. So it was really kind of all I had ever known. And in high school, I was much more drawn to math and science, and frankly, much more science than math even.
Sure.
And so it was just kind of a natural fit that I would go to an engineering school and, become an engineer.
You and I are very different in that regard. I was not the math and science guy. I was the the writing and the English and all that kind of stuff. So
yeah, I can't say that I was a math guy. I get it.
Sure.
I did it, but I much more enjoyed science.
Okay,
than
fair
math.
enough. You mentioned your mom was kind of a pioneer in engineering. Tell me a little bit about what she did and I guess what made her a pioneer.
Well, my mom, I can't recall the exact year she started her career. It was early 1970s.
Okay.
She was an industrial engineer for 3M back in the day when there were not a lot of women engineers.
Yeah.
And so that's been, kind of inspirational to me. Like, boy, if my mom can do it, I can do this,
Yeah, that's cool. Did you work on a bunch of different projects for that, or what kind of stuff did she do for 3M?
She was not in civil engineering, so she was working mostly manufacturing facilities as an engineer, and ended up with a long and successful career.
Very cool. How would you define maybe the work that a city engineer does, maybe broadly, but also specifically in your case?
I guess like very, very, very broadly, at its core, my job is to help protect the safety, health, property, and environmental resources for this community. And part of that work includes understanding a wide range of our infrastructure systems, including water distribution, wastewater collection, wastewater treatment, stormwater conveyance and treatment systems. But that also includes our roadways, traffic signals, bridges, and that's all on the public side. We also make sure that all the private development projects, including future residential subdivisions that do become public entities, make sure they're all built and designed in accordance with our local ordinances and best practices. As a city engineer, I am never, or not usually, an expert in any singular field. I guess I'm really more of a jack of all trades and master of none.
Sure.
And I need to know enough about all engineering topics to know when I need an expert. And
Sure.
and we have consulting firms that we do pull in when we need that level of expertise. But up until I got this job about 5 years ago, I had a really, really diverse career. I've been exposed to tons of different projects, different communities, and all of that experience helped me land here, and hopefully I'm being successful at my job.
Sure. You mentioned your background in your career before this. You were an engineer in the private sector before joining the city. What was that adjustment like to move from being an engineer in that world and the private sector to the public sector? I'm guessing quite a bit different, maybe.
It's quite a bit different. Work in the private sector was maybe in some ways a little bit less stressful because after a project was completed, I handed it back over to the community, and
Sure.
I was done with it. Here, the project it's always mine. I mean,
Right.
even after years after a project is completed, if something didn't go exactly per plan or something may be more difficult to maintain than it had been in its previous state,
Mhm.
I hear about it. So I don't have the luxury of just saying that project is done,
Right.
move on. But that also comes with like a pretty deep sense of satisfaction when a
Right.
project goes well. I mean, I'm reminded of it all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, even some of my old projects when I was in the private sector, I live in Wisconsin, and I still return to some of those communities in which I worked, and I drive down some of the roads. I'm like, this was my project.
Yeah.
Look, it's still holding up. But here, if it's not holding up, I do hear about it also.
Well, yeah, because this is your community. I mean, so you're driving the roads that
Right.
these projects are on,
I,
and you're
I'm
seeing the work every day.
I drive here for work, but I also drive here to have dinner with my friends, and
Right.
my kids go to school here, and we're part of this community.
Yeah. Well, I guess in that sense, probably some pride though, and when these projects are done, that maybe
Absolutely.
more so than in the private sector.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. It's a much deeper sense of satisfaction.
Absolutely. So as you mentioned, you've been with the city for about 5 years now, and you've done a lot of different projects over that time. What's been maybe the most rewarding project that you've worked on so far?
Well, there's been a couple of them. I mean, there's been more than a couple of
Sure.
them. The two most rewarding projects so far in my career here have been the Powell Avenue Bridge and the South Wasson Lane reconstruction project.
Mhm.
I do have to say that a lot of credit goes to my predecessors for getting those projects in queue and lining up state funding for those very expensive projects. And I was fortunate to be the guy that got to finish them up, but I'd be remiss if I
The
didn't.
relay race, you took the baton.
Yeah,
towards the
I
finish
took
line.
the baton, and I don't know if the construction end of things was more challenging than the pre-construction. They were both important, but I'd be remiss if I didn't credit my predecessors. The Palo Avenue Bridge in particular was, I mean, it had reached the end of its useful life cycle.
Mhm.
If we hadn't have reconstructed that bridge when we did, we likely would have had to close that roadway until such time we could reconstruct the bridge.
Sure.
And now it's a structure that's going to be good for the next 50 years, provided we do a good job maintaining it.
Right.
So that, I mean, I'm going to be long gone in 50 years. So it's nice knowing that that type of thing it's going to still be there
It will
for
endure, yeah.
generations to
Right.
come. The Wasson Lane project was pretty rewarding. Even before the project, I've anecdotally heard from community members, and friends and the school bus drivers that the intersection before we reconstructed it of Cascade Avenue and Wasson Lane was very dangerous.
Yeah.
It was traffic was higher speed coming off of the highway. The roadways weren't aligned at a 90-degree angle, so there was some acute angles. It was hard to see. And I've actually had people tell me that, thank you for doing this. And it was kind of blew my mind. Like, I was just doing my job. But historically, it was a really unsafe intersection. And now just driving it, it feels so good to be moving on to the next less safe intersection, I guess.
Well, those are two pretty big projects. When one of those wraps up, I mean, what do you do to kind of, I don't know, celebrate's the right word, but do you take a sigh of relief and just, like you said, on to the next project?
Yeah,
but
there's
take a little moment of reflection to
we're
look at it?
told to, but it's not really in my nature
Sure.
to celebrate that much. I mean, there's always more to do.
Sure. Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, the Powell Avenue Bridge, that was before my time here, but the Wasson one was
Right.
kind of work under construction as I was starting out here. So kind of cool for me to see the progress and getting the drone out there and seeing all the work that was done. So,
Yeah, it was cool. That project also had a really nobody really notices it, but it did also provide a significant improvement in stormwater management for the South Wasson Lane corridor.
Sure.
There is a pretty big watershed south of South Wasson Lane that drains right through South Wasson Lane. So we haven't had any huge 10-inch rainstorms since that project went in place, but when we do, I'm kind of looking forward
Be ready for it.
to seeing the volume of water that flows through there now.
That'd be cool. Well, you talked about some of these big projects. I'm curious about the timeline that maybe a typical engineering project takes from start to finish, and I'm sure it varies based on the scope of the work. But what does that process like? Beginning with the planning stages all the way through implementation, typically.
Yeah, I mean, I know construction projects to the general public, they can be really frustrating. They can take a really long time and can be a major inconvenience. But for every, I mean, every month of construction project timeline, there's probably 2 months of planning that
Mm,
goes into it,
wow.
especially projects that are like the Powell Avenue Bridge and the South Wasson Lane project that require they're mostly grant funded. Getting those grants aligned, getting them in line for the project, and
Hmm.
then walking through all the grant requirements takes a long time.
Yeah.
After funding is secured for a project, then of course everything we do is authorized by city council.
Sure.
Typically put on a capital improvement plan. If an asset needs reconstruction or replacement, um, we'll go through a capital planning process and identify that in a draft capital improvement plan. And then once city council approves the capital improvement plan, then we start marching towards construction.
Yeah.
So most major projects take years of
Sure.
planning.
You mentioned the funding and the grant piece of it. Is that something that falls on your plate for applying for grants and that sort of thing for these projects?
Typically, some grants we apply for ourselves. Some grants we have some grant preparers that do some of that work for
Right.
us, and it just depends
Sure.
on the project.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, I know there's several big projects either upcoming or that are currently ongoing. And let's maybe start with the Safe Streets Action Plan. Maybe share a little bit about what that is and what residents should know about it as we kind of move towards that project.
Good timing. We have been working on a Safe Streets Action Plan for over a year now. And what a Safe Streets Action Plan is a data-driven approach to eliminate all serious injuries and fatalities for all roadway users. We started the process quite a while ago in April of 2023 when City Council approved a Vision Zero resolution,
Hmm.
which is a resolution declaring a goal of eliminating serious injuries and fatalities from our roadways for all roadway users. Following the Vision Zero resolution, we secured a $200,000 federal DOT, Department of Transportation grant to prepare a safety action plan. And we hired a consulting firm to do that. And it's kind of nearing the end stages of the process. The plan will incorporate crash data and a whole bunch of public input to identify high risk and high injury areas of our roadway network and identify strategies to improve roadway safety. After the plan is complete, we request council to formally adopt that plan. After the plan is adopted, that makes the city of River Falls eligible to apply for implementation funding. So
Okay.
money to actually implement some components of this plan
Mhm.
using the same federal DOT grant program that we secured the grant to prepare the plan in.
Got it.
So it's some implementation grant funding.
And so the implementation of that we could look like crosswalks or sidewalks, or I mean, I guess what's kind of the end?
Well,
What will that look like ultimately, or to be determined still?
to be determined,
Sure.
the plan isn't completed yet, but the plan is like overreaching throughout the whole city. Implementation funding can be you can apply for a lot of different things for
Mm.
implementation funding. What we hope to be able to do is apply for implementation funding to do some pretty major projects that we'll talk about here.
Okay, cool. Well, another big upcoming project, maybe this is what you're alluding to, will be the Main Street or the downtown reconstruction. Let's dive into that one a little bit. What will that entail, and what does the timeline look like for that project?
Well, downtown is a big project. It probably could be one of the largest projects the city of River Falls has ever undertaken. It was identified by our city council as a strategic initiative in 2025 to start an inventory analysis and start planning how we're going to get this done. There are a couple drivers for this project right now. The first one, I guess we'll start underground. The underground utilities, so I'm talking water distribution system and wastewater collection system,
Okay.
they have lived a long life. And we believe that the water system was installed in about year 1900. So it's
Oh, wow.
it's well over 100 years old, and knock on wood, still functioning really well.
Right.
There have been some issues with the individual water service lines to individual businesses.
Okay.
We don't have the ability to turn water off individually to a business anymore because most of those valves have failed, been paved over, just disappeared
Right.
into the earth. So if an individual business has a problem that requires us to shut off the water, maybe a burst plumbing fixture that they need to get a plumber in to repair or something like that, we have to turn off water to the whole block,
Oh, wow.
which can be pretty disruptive
Right.
to a business that needs water to make food, clean dishes,
Right.
all sorts of things.
Sure.
The sanitary sewer system is a little newer than the water system.
Okay.
We think it was installed around year 1940.
Okay.
So it also has outlived its useful life.
I
And
don't know how long they normally last, but that seems like a
yeah,
long time. Yeah.
a typical design life, you shoot for 50 years. It's usually more. One of the issues with the sanitary sewer collection system isn't really on the public side of the system, but on the private side of the system. So building owners own their sanitary sewer or their building sewer service. So the sewer lateral is another term we call same thing.
Okay.
They own that from their building to the sewer main. Many of these building sewer services they're shared between two buildings, and some of them are failing or have required additional maintenance to continue in operation, and they're at the point where they need to be replaced. The whole system should be replaced.
Yeah.
And it causes some concern to business owners who maybe didn't know they shared a sewer lateral and maybe didn't know that they owned that entire lateral from the building to the main.
Not think about is there.
Yeah, it's not something that people typically know. I mean, I know this because I've been doing this for a long time, and that is how most communities that I have been working in, that's how their ordinances are written. But it is a surprise if somebody has to replace their sanitary sewer lateral, especially on Main Street. It's not just replacing the pipe, it's removing the sidewalk, removing the curb and gutter, removing the pavement, digging a big hole. How are we going to keep traffic on Main Street while we have this huge hole on it?
Right.
It requires a detour to get the work done. So it gets really expensive when you start tacking all those things together. The other thing that we like to talk about and remind people of on Main Street is that River Falls has not been spared from the emerald ash borer epidemic.
Right.
The majority of our pretty ash trees or pretty trees in downtown are ash trees.
Yeah,
unfortunately, and they are infected. We have been, longer than I've been working here, we have been treating them. The treatment isn't a cure, but it can and has extended their life.
Right.
We don't know how long we can continue extending their life. We will continue as long as we can, but they are going to have to come down. And we also know, if you drive down Main Street, the pavement on Main Street has deteriorated also to the point that it needs complete replacement.
Yeah.
The whole roadway needs a complete reconstruction. And when we're excavating the roadway to replace the sanitary sewer, replace the water main, trees are coming down, pavement's coming out, that really does afford us an opportunity to rethink what Main Street looks like, and it'll give us a chance to optimize Main Street for our 2026, 7, 8, 9, 29, 30 needs. And part of that is going to bring in components from the safety action plan that we just talked about.
Right.
And one of, I mentioned that having a safety action plan makes us eligible for implementation funding. We are planning and hoping that the safety action plan implementation funding will help us prepare a competitive grant application to get Safe Streets funding for a potential downtown reconstruction project. We have, we're also pursuing there's no guarantee of a grant, but so we're exploring all avenues of grant funding, including a recent submittal to, it's again another federal DOT grant called the Build Grant Program. We recently submitted a Build Grant application. We don't know if we won't know if we've been awarded a grant for quite a while, but we're not only hanging our hats on the Safe Streets implementation funding.
So as far as that project goes in the timeline, obviously some of the planning is already taking place, but what as far as implementation or the beginning of any kind of construction that residents might see, do we know yet what that might look like, or is it all kind of contingent on the funding and various things?
It's all pretty contingent on funding.
Okay.
If we are awarded a grant in 2026, say sometime, it takes quite a while to even get the federal process, the federal grant agreement in place.
Right.
And then after that, I really expect it's going to be this is going to be a huge project. We expect a 2-year, probably at least a 1 year, more likely a 2-year planning process.
Okay.
And this work, it may be a multi-phased, multi-year construction project. And we've got a lot to think about. How do we actually physically do this work and continue to have 10,000 cars per day on Main Street? Or
is that what it is? 10,000 cars?
Ish.
Wow. Okay.
I mean, it varies based on time of year. Where do those cars go?
Right.
How do we make sure that downtown businesses can still operate during construction? These are all things that we need to think through pretty extensively before we just blow it up.
Start digging things out there.
It's gonna be disruptive, and we need to make it as least disruptive as possible.
Right. Between that and the Kinni Corridor project, there's gonna be two sizable projects going on, probably simultaneously, I would think.
Potentially, that is a little scary from my point of view. But
the community development department will be plenty busy.
Yeah,
in the coming years.
It's possible, but hey, if we can swing it, we'll do it
for sure. Well, with any project the city does, whether it's the Main Street or just other roadway projects, anything like that, how do you kind of account for the growth of River Falls, knowing that as new developments are happening and things like that, that any of these projects are kind of taking that into effect, the fact that there are more people living here, more people visiting?
Yeah, back in 2023, the city went through a comprehensive planning effort, and that generated a new comprehensive plan for the city that identifies how city council wants to grow. And based on the comprehensive plan, where growth area may occur, that's how we plan for increased roadway users, increased water main capacity, maybe a new drinking water well, or a new increased size of a sanitary sewer, or maybe improvements down at our wastewater treatment plant to manage more wastewater. So that 2023 comprehensive plan has kind of been our Bible for making sure that new growth can be accommodated by our infrastructure. And if it can't be accommodated by our infrastructure, we know we need to do a project.
Right. We got a couple left here for you, and then we'll let you off the hook here. Kind of hopefully a simple one. What do you enjoy most about the work you get to do here for the city?
What like I said earlier, like I'm a jack of all trades, master of none, and truly my days rarely are what I think they're going to be when I show up. So I really appreciate the variety of projects. I don't get bored, and the work I get to do for the city, one of the things that I enjoy most about it are the people that I get to work with. I've been working for 25 years, and the people I work with at this employer are among the most talented that I've ever worked with. And every day I get to come in and work with some amazing people. I also do appreciate the partnerships that the city has with our neighboring governmental entities like Pierce County, St. Croix County, Wisconsin DNR, Wisconsin DOT. We coordinate everything we do with all of our governmental partners, and it's always a pleasure to have a contact and they actually care about our stuff.
Right.
It's great.
Yeah, nice. Well, last one here, and this is a question everyone gets asked on the podcast, is what impact do you hope your work will have on the people of River Falls?
Really, I said earlier, like my job is to do what I can to through the things I can control to protect safety, health, property, and environmental resources for the city of River Falls and community. I believe that we're doing that, and I hope that the work that we're putting in the ground now, I hope it continues to benefit the community for another 50 years. I mean, long after I'm gone and maybe in the ground.
All right. Well, with that, you are officially off the hot seat here, Todd. I appreciate you joining the podcast today, and thanks for sharing about some of the great work that you and the rest of the team are doing.
Thanks, Tyler. I appreciate it.
Again, that was Todd Nickelski, the city engineer here with the City of River Falls on this episode of the Kinni Cast. If you don't already subscribe, be sure to check it out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or at rfcity.org. You can find it as well, or wherever you get your podcasts. Be sure to hit the subscribe button, share it with your friends, your neighbors, so they can be up to date on things that are going on throughout the city. But until next time, have a great day, River Falls.